Good evening, everybody. Brian Newbert here from goldenblack.com, live on tape delay here in Mackey Arena, following Purdue's Saturday festivities. It's alumni game followed by its intra-squad scrimmage 2 days before the Boilermakers leave for Europe for their four-game exhibition tour. Figured I would do a quick little rap video just for old time's sake. So I will make this quick. I know I always say that, but I certainly mean it this time. Thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your support, as always. It is very much appreciated. So Purdue, I'm not going to tell you which team won because there's no context to that. But just a couple of things that really stood out, and I'll have much more on this later and throughout the week. But, the interesting thing about Purdue going to Europe is, first off, this was delayed twice. First by a pandemic and then by a rash of injuries for Purdue last year. So they've postponed this twice, and it lands in a year where you really need it the least because you prefer to go on these trips when you're young, when you're brand new, and when you got a lot of stuff to work through. Purdue, once it has Ross-Ade back, trying to straighten my hat. Once it has Ross-Ade back, will be as known a commodity as any team in the country. So this is really a team that doesn't need this trip as much as a lot of teams would. Throw in the fact that you're not going to have Ross-Ade because he's with Team Canada, and all of a sudden the context again shifts. This is not the team you're going to play the season with. If it was one or two guys, sitting out or whatever, it's not that big a deal. But when it's the guy that affects every damn thing you do as a team, it's just not applicable context to what's going to happen during the season. So I don't mean that to say that Purdue can't get anything out of this, but I'm saying this is, these are not ideal conditions for, a developmental trip like this. That said, there are some things Purdue's working on that you haven't really seen as much of. There are some newcomers that can really benefit from this. To the former point, what you saw today was Trey Kaufman-Renn be very productive. They are going to play him more at the 4 this year, whereas he was almost exclusively a 5 last year because of defense. I think Purdue would have played him a little bit at the 4 last year, but I just think it was not a comfortable fit for him from a defensive perspective with where he was physically, with his body. He got really big, he got really strong. With getting really big and really strong comes kind of heavy feet sometimes, and I'm not sure he was the quickest footed guy in the world to begin with. So that's why he ended up playing mostly center. Caleb First is a better fit for him to switch screens and whatnot at the 4. Maybe a little quicker footed, even though he's a pretty big guy. So I think that flip-flops this year. So I think that's really the big thing to watch in Europe. Now, the challenge for Kaufman-Renn and for Purdue's whole team is him playing next to Ross-Ade. Where spacing is going to be a massive concern because you've got these two guys who are used to having their place around the basket, having space to work with, and it's just hard to have two guys like that next to one another. So Purdue's going to have to figure that out. They're not going to have a chance to do that in Europe because there's no Edey. But what you saw today in this scrimmage was Trey Kaufman-Renn playing next to Will Berg, who's at least the same size as Edey. He's not the same impact sort of quotient guy as Ross-Ade would be, but he's the same sort of physical specimen. Will Berg looked good today. Will Berg has really looked good here the last couple weeks after having that surgery on his foot that really, really has helped his mobility. But he's not Ross-Ade, obviously, and he's never going to be Ross-Ade. I don't know if there's ever going to be another Ross-Ade come through this place. But you saw Kaufman-Renn playing next to a 7-foot-plus guy, and he was really productive. He was 6 of 10 from the floor. He's going to want to make his free throws. He did make a 3 on 2 attempts. that's the important part of this, is that, he's got to be able to stretch the floor from the forward position. That's an essential piece of that position in modern basketball. And that's going to be essential for Purdue, that he can do that, but also that he can fit in next to Ade, and those two can make each other better and not, cancel each other out and not get in each other's way. That will be something that Purdue can keep ironing out after Europe once they have Ade back on campus. I think you're going to see, though, some real opportunities for Caleb First once he gets his face closed up. He was spraying blood at the end of this event, and that's obviously not ideal. But I think Purdue can put him in more pick and roll and really use his pick and pop ability, even though he didn't shoot great last season, but also his ability to dive and finish and pick and roll. That can be a real weapon for them this year when he's in there at center, and a little bit of a different look from Ade. So I thought this was going to happen last year, but as I said before, the defensive matchups locked Kaufman-Wren into the 5 and First into the 4. I think that flips this year. I know that flips this year. The other challenge then, of course, is Kaufman-Wren erasing that concern last year that pigeonholed him into the 5, is he's going to have to be able to defend on the perimeter. I have no idea what Purdue is facing over there. I don't know how good these teams are. This time of year, a lot of these guys are starting up their years, so they're coming in. They've not played a lot. They've not played a lot together. They're probably playing their way into shape. That's with the professional teams. I have no idea what Purdue's facing over there. So it could go a lot of different ways here. Winning and losing doesn't matter. It's just all about the process here for Purdue in terms of getting Miles Colvin onboarded, getting Camden Heide kind of in the mix here, getting Lance Jones up to speed with these guys he's going to be playing with now. Again, no Zach Edey, so all the stuff that's going to apply to those guys in the context of what Purdue's going to have as a team is out the window here. So in the scrimmage today, I thought a couple of things that really stood out was Kaufman-Wren was very good. Camden Heide's rebounding. I think we knew he'd be athletic. We knew he'd be, kind of a physical specimen on the wing. Every indication has been he shot the ball really well this summer. That's going to be a really important thing for him in the framework of what Purdue has offensively. But his rebounding, man, he was an authority today. An authority. That's the best I could come up with. I didn't want to overstate it and say he was a force or he dominated the glass or something like that. So I came up with authority. Anyway, Fletcher Lawyer I thought was good, shooting the ball, made shots. I thought Lance Jones made the sort of shots he's going to have to make when Edey's back. This is a different kind of deal for him because he's used to being a shot creator at Southern Illinois. Now he's got to be that fourth, fifth shooting option that when the opportunities come his way, maybe he's a guy who people aren't paying as much attention to as a shooter. He's got to be able to make enough of those shots to keep people honest, to burn people when they're putting 3 guys on Zach Edey and, cheating off somebody else and, so on and so forth. So that's what kind of stood out from an individual perspective today. I could probably talk forever, and at some point this season I probably will. But that's what I got for now. I wanted to keep this short. I didn't keep it as short as I wanted to. Not even close. So from Mackey Arena, this is Brian Newbert from goldenblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. And thank you for processing our materials. However it is you process our materials. And you'll hear me again tonight when we do our Saturday simulcast after this. So stay tuned for that. Thank you once again to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support. It is much appreciated. Looking forward to another eventful season for Purdue here, covering it every step of the way, and it's nice to be back in this arena. So it's nice to be back to doing what I'm on this earth to do, apparently. So thanks, everybody.